right. If you are here, thank you so much for tuning in. I was supposed to go live with Travis this morning, so I apologize if you were waiting for that. I don't have kids, but he has kids and he had some kid issues. So we have to be understanding, right? I'm sure if you have kids, how things can come up all the time. So we have rescheduled that live for not the following Monday, but the Monday after that. And we're going to be talking about how cognitive distortions can depress you. But today I'm going to be talking about how 15,000 Minnesota nurses plan to strike. Good morning. How are you doing? Where are you watching from, Keishu? So let me know your thoughts on nurses striking. And I've got feedback that I talk too fast, so I'm going to try to slow down. If you want me to talk faster, then let me know. But okay, so starting December 11, members of the Minnesota Nurses Association, they plan to strike at 16 hospitals. The strike affects about 15,000 nurses at 15 facilities run by Allina Health, HealthPartners, Essentia Health, Fairview Health Services, Children's Minnesota, North Memorial Health, and St. Luke's. Nurses at St. Luke's Lakeview Hospital and Two Harbors are also slated to join the 15,000 nurses in the Twin Cities and Twin Ports. So again, if you're tuning in, let me know how you feel about nurses striking. It's unfortunate and it's sad for the patients, but unfortunately, sometimes in order for things to change, nurses have to stand up and take a stand. I know here, one of my friends, she recently partook in a strike at Osceola Regional because they want to take away the nursery nurses and so they're doing away with the nursery nurses and they want to give the babies to the L&D nurse that's taking care of the mama. So they keep, as nurses, so Keishu's watching from Michigan. Thank you. So they keep giving nurses more and more work. And it's dangerous. Frankly, it's dangerous. It's not all about pay. So sometimes I say, like, they keep giving us more work without pay. But at this point, it's just dangerous. And they're starting to hold nurses legally accountable, right? They're charging us with crimes. So if they're going to charge us with crimes, then our working conditions need to improve because it is not fair at all. The working conditions that we have. Let me see if I can zoom in here. Okay. So it really resonated what they said. I'll read a little bit below, but it said union members are scheduled to begin striking at 7 a.m. December 11th. Nurses in the Twin Cities at Essentia plan to strike through 7 a.m. on December 31st. That is a very long strike. Hopefully, if they can come to some agreement, then it will not go this long. While nurses at St. Luke's in Duluth and at St. Luke's Lakeview in Two Harbors have chosen an open-ended strike, according to a union news release. And this is what really resonated with me, and I completely agree. Our hospitals are in crisis, and our CEOs have failed nurses and patients. So Keishu was saying they did that to us as well, and couplet care was born, and so many things could get missed. We watched out for each other and would catch those moments. Thank you for sharing. And it's very dangerous if you are a patient. Advocate, vote for legislation that is pro-nurse, that is pro nurse patient ratio, and don't let lobbyists, don't fall for what the lobbyists are saying. It's our working conditions are deplorable. They have failed to solve the crisis of patient care, and they have failed to solve the crisis of working conditions, pushing nurses away from the bedside. I will say that again, that there is not a shortage of nurses. There's a shortage of nurses that are willing to work in the conditions that we are currently being forced to work in. So there's a mass exodus of nurses. They don't want to work in those conditions. Nurses are fighting to win contracts that will help nurses stay on the job to provide patients with the exceptional care they deserve. And here's the thing, many nurses, many people go into nursing with this ideal of what nursing is like. They want to take care of patients, they want to be able to help them, they want to be able to hold their hand. And then when we start working as a nurse, we are pulled in 30 different directions. We have so many things to do, so much charting, rounding with physicians, doing our daily, our what do they call it, our hourly rounding, or updating the whiteboard, and so much like BS that's just busy work that takes us away from patient care. It's so sad. Exactly. Keishu said that pro nurse equals pro patient. Now, California is the only state in the US that has nurse patient ratios. And in that state, lobbyists fought so hard, hospital lobbyists fought so hard so that that wouldn't pass, because they were threatening, saying, "Oh, if this passes, we're not going to have enough nurses, or the hospitals will have to close down." And magically, the law passed. They've had to uphold those ratios, and magically, no hospital had to shut down, and the doors were able to stay open. And I'm not saying California is like this heaven, this paradise for all nurses, but it's a lot better than in the rest of the country. And I do have a friend that has worked both here in Florida and in California, and he says he will never work here in Florida again, that the difference is very visible. Of course, if you have always worked in California and you have nothing else to compare it with, you don't know how good you have it sometimes. Hospital CEOs with $1 million salaries can afford to put patients before profits in our hospitals and to do right by Minnesota nurses. Again, I don't, I've done videos on it, I've done TikToks, and that's exactly what I've said before. It's like these CEOs are getting paid, even if they're not getting paid millions of dollars annually, even if they're getting paid hundreds of thousands, not three figures, six-figure salaries annually. That's a lot more than we're ever seeing as nurses. And they have money to put up new buildings and to invest in new departments. Before you start building entirely new wings of a floor, why don't you take care of the wings that you already have? Why don't you staff them appropriately instead of staffing with like bare minimum, bare bones, that if first of all, when we're staffed, it's usually like we're already stretched to the max. God forbid somebody calls out because we're not allowed to get sick. God forbid somebody calls out. Now we are extra short staffed. And I am telling you, the statistics show that for each patient a nurse has, patient mortality and adverse outcomes increases exponentially. Off the top of my head, I don't know the exact statistic, so I won't throw one out there, but studies do show that for each patient that we have, patients fare worse. It's scary. If you are a patient, you should be scared that the hospitals are doing this. They're not putting your needs before profit. The union also accuses hospital executives of colluding to keep wages down for nurses, direct dealing with nurse union members, and refusing to provide information necessary for the bargaining process. The scheduled strike follows a 3-day strike in September. Nurses in the Twin Cities and Twin Ports have been in negotiations with hospital management for 8 months and authorized another strike on November 30th. Allina Health expressed disappointment about the union's decision to schedule another strike. So Keishu said, busy work, exactly, not patient-centered. I heard University of Michigan Hospital had a union for nurses, but are the nurses being covered by a nurse practitioner for nurses? And yeah, I haven't. So we have the A&P, but my passion right now is um, nurse patient ratios. It breaks my heart. I teach part-time, and it breaks my heart to see my students that I taught maybe not that long ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, already expressing burnout, um, going in a different direction, saying they're going to leave the field. So this is my passion. um, I think that our nurse practitioner association still has so much. I don't know if it's because it's a female dominated profession, but it's tiring. I just feel like the nursing profession has so much fighting that we need to do. We have to fight for nurse patient ratios. And then as a nurse practitioner, we have to fight to be taken seriously. We have to fight for fair wages. We have to fight for our scope of practice. Like, it just gets exhausting, honestly. Um, so Gem Jocks to ask me, how's your COVID? It's better. I developed POTS after getting COVID for the second time. I still sometimes will get dizzy, but it's definitely a lot better than it was a few months ago. So thank you for asking. I'm not 100%. Like I said, I still get dizzy, but the tachycardia is a lot better. And then Keishu said, someone who has walked the walk and done the job of a nurse patient ratio is so important, crucial. It sure is. And I really think that all of these CEOs should shadow nurses the typical day of a nurse, the whole day, not half a day, not half an hour. I think that should be obligatory, that they shadow a nurse, they see everything that we have to do. And I guarantee you, they would be leaving with a new appreciation, and they'd see that we deserve safe patient ratios. Now, of course, this is what the hospital is saying. They said MNA leadership continues to focus on disruption at the expense of spending meaningful time at the bargaining table. We have made some progress and believe we can reach an agreement on the outstanding issues with focused negotiations. The use of a mediator is a regular part of collective bargaining, blah, 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 blah. Our negotiators have made progress in many areas, and while gaps remain, we are confident progress can continue to be made by remaining engaged at the table. It has barely been a week since the union finally agreed to bring expert mediators to assist the parties in reaching mutually agreeable solutions. Not one meeting with mediators has even occurred yet, but the union has elected to pursue a strike rather than a settlement. I highly doubt this is the case. Again, highly doubt that's the case. Keishu said, my husband said if there was more men in nursing, that they would have better pay, better nursing working conditions, less patients to care for at one time. Keishu, I 1000% agree with you. When I say this, I'm often met with some resistance. I think that people underestimate how much, maybe it's subconscious bias. I think people underestimate the amount of bias that there still is towards females. I really do. I really do, Keishu. I agree. Thank you for saying this. Thank you to your husband for acknowledging this. I think part of it is also our fault for not setting appropriate limits and boundaries. But I guarantee you, and a lot of, listen, my male nurse practitioner friends are much are paid a lot more than what my female counterparts are. And we exchange salary information because I believe in pay transparency. But not only do my male NP friends get paid more, they negotiate more. They it's just, as me personally, I've discussed this with Nurse Liz before. If you know Nurse Liz, check her channel out. She's great. But Nurse Liz and I have issues with negotiating. And I think being brought up, I've addressed this before. I was brought up to be polite. We're taught to not make waves. I've always had kind of like that rebellious streak in me in regards to, not rebellious like law breaking, because I've always been like super square. Like I never drank or did any of the like drugs, anything like that. I can't say those words because YouTube. But like, so I'm a square when it comes to that. Like I don't do any kind of substances, or I don't go out partying and stuff like that. But I've had a rebellious streak in regards to, like, I am an activist. Like I believe I'm an idealist. Like I think things should be better, and things should be fair. And I realize that the world is an unfair place. But it like I said before, Keishu, it is tiring as a female. It is tiring, like the huge discrepancy in pay. Um, Gemjock said, "Are you an empath?" I'm definitely an empath. Um, I'm definitely an empath, and that can also weigh on our soul. Um, Keishu said that the best nursing supervisor or manager I ever had started her career as a nurse assistant and worked her way up to management. I was so glad to work not for her, but with her. Amen. So, the group also said that negotiators will be able to negotiate in good faith over the coming days to avert a strike, but it may be necessary for hospitals to reschedule non critical care procedures if a walkout occurs. And again, I don't want these nurses being blamed. The fact that they are striking, nurses don't want to not work, they don't want to abandon their patients. The fact that they are striking, it means that the conditions are so deplorable that they have been basically, this is their last resort. This is their last option. That they feel like this. Oh, gem jock. One thing after COVID is I get a lot of like brain fog and brain fart, and I can't think of words how I like. I will want to say certain words and they don't come to me. Um, But anyways, so Keishu said he felt it was because most women who were nurses um were dependent upon that income to raise their families. He was right about that. But so trust me, like I have a friend that's an NP and he's the only one that works, right? His wife does not work. So he's the sole breadwinner in the family. And yet he's not afraid to negotiate, right? He will lay things out. And I just, again, as men are raised to be assertive. If a man is assertive, then he's a leader. If a woman is assertive, she's bossy, right? It goes back to all those words that I was labeled as bossy as a child. Oh, she's so bossy, blah, 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 blah. Like, but men are leaders. Men are passionate instead of emotional, right? If a man expresses emotion, he's passionate, but not emotional, or we label women as crazy or too emotional. Yeah. So Keishu says that infuriates me. I'm not sure which part of it. It all infuriates me. Um, oh yeah, so you follow Nurse Liz. Wish you guys were available years ago. Um, but I think that what these Minnesota nurses are doing is admirable. I think that this is, and you know what though, it's inspiring because I do feel that the newer generation of nurses are advocating more for themselves. They're not putting up with it. They're setting standards. There's I don't, forgive me for what I just said. I don't know if I said that they are setting standards or they're not setting standards. I meant that they are setting standards. Like they're setting boundaries. They're saying like what they expect and what they will not put up with. They're more willing to strike. They're more willing to put up with themselves, to put up, they're more likely to stick up for themselves. So I think that this is the beginning of a new wave of nurses that is saying, you know what, we deserve to be treated better. Our profession deserves to be respected. We deserve to have pay and for the safety of patients. And again, patients, nurses are doing this for you because at the end of the day, if the more patients they have, the more your life is at risk. I can't tell you how many times, um, because I went into a patient room, I was able to save a life, right? I was able to prevent a patient from going into like a diabetic um, coma. Or I realized that the TPN was causing almost like a fatal cardiac arrhythmia in a patient because the previous pharmacist had put too much potassium in the bag, and I was able to like investigate and figure out like what's going on with this arrhythmia. If you're too busy to be like monitoring your patients and noticing like this patient looks uh lethargic, what's going on, let me check your blood sugar. If you're too busy to do those little things, adverse outcomes are going to happen. And again, I don't blame the nurses, I blame the nurse patient ratios. Jock says, wow, that's terrible. Do you have an idea where you caught COVID a second time, like the time and place and from who possibly? Um, I have a theory, but again, I'm not sure. So you never really know at this point in time. But again, I am immunosuppressed. Oh, I guess I made it. That's my first SCX spot. I never had one of those before. So I thought I blocked them. I think I blocked it. Okay. I don't know. Was not able to block the SEX bot. So that's everything for today. They are planning to strike December 11th. If you have a question, feel free to drop it. I will drop it in the comment section. I will do a little bit of a Q&A. Also, let me know what more videos you want to see. My Love is Blind video is doing very well, so I may do one of those. Gemjock, how are you doing? Do you have POTS? And Keishu, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate. This is why I enjoy going live versus just recording, because I love the interaction with you guys. So thank you so much for tuning in and watching from Michigan. I really appreciate it. And if there's no questions, I will be signing off here shortly. Make sure that you hit the like button, you subscribe, you turn on that notification bell. Keishu is saying, is there a way that we can set up a fund for these nurses so that they don't lose their homes and are not able to feed their children or families because of having a strike? That is a great idea. However, that's a great idea. I don't know how we would get that money to them. So it would be great if you're watching this and you're one of those nurses, let me know. But again, Keishu, I just in an era where like there's so much like fraud and people saying that they are somebody, like I would want to make sure that the money goes to the real nurses. For example, I've had contests before and like the person that won, someone else created an email in their name. So I sent this person the like whatever they had won. And then the person contacts me through Instagram. They're like, I never received my prize. So I sent it to someone else. So like there's just a lot of like scams out there. So personally, I will not be like responsible for getting all the money, and because I don't want to get involved with that and potentially scam somebody, but without knowing it. But that would be a great idea. They should maybe look into that. So Gemjock says that no, I don't have POTS. I never caught COVID this entire time. And I stay away from people during the height of COVID and stay away from anti-maskers, anti-vaxxers during the height of the COVID these past 2 years. Yeah. But unfortunately, like me being in healthcare, so I teach part-time. And when I caught it that second time, I don't know if I caught it from I was working out or I also was at the hospital. And I was wearing a mask at the hospital, but it's just impossible being in healthcare. I'm exposed to it all the time. And like I said, I take medication that suppresses my immune system because I have Sjogren's. So it's not a way to win. I do think so. Florida, most facilities don't have unions. Our LPNs had a union until there were no more at the hospital I used to work for. Florida is very much like a right for work state. They're more conservative versus liberal, so they don't like unions, and it's just really hard to unionize. But I think if we're going to get anything done as nurses, we need to join our unions and we need to be active in our unions. So definitely. All right, let me see if I can. All righty. Well, once again, thank you so much for tuning in, Keishu. Thank you for all of the feedback. And again, if you're a nurse, advocate for yourself, join a union, vote for legislation that is pro-nurse, pro-patient, and elect officials that are pro-nurse, pro-patients. And that's how we start making changes, like one state at a time, one hospital at a time. So Gemjock is saying that they're not blaming me if I caught it at the workplace. Yeah, a lot of people in Florida think it's a joke. And then, so Keishu, it's a SEX bot, BOT. So if we say certain words on YouTube, they won't allow us to monetize our videos because it's like children could be watching essentially, even though I always mark my videos as like not for children, but we don't want like children seeing things or hearing words that is not for children. So that's why they say that. And Gemjock, I'm not sure. I don't know about that. I would have to look that up. Like if the health surgeon is anti-vaxxer. I know doesn't really DeSantis doesn't really believe in it. Yeah, exactly. All righty. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, everyone.